Well, welcome everybody.
Well, I had set enough chairs, I thought, for just the board members.
Barry, did y'all call your meeting to order as well?
Nope, so we need to call the meeting order of the EMS District 1. I'm unfamiliar with all the joint meetings.
Sure.
Yeah, I think
You got
it's
it.
actually two separate meetings.
Okay.
It is two separate meetings, but we do them together for the purposes of information
Okay.
and discussion. And so our item number 3 is discussion pertaining to audit findings of the EMSI 1 district and discussion pertaining to possible conflicts of interest regarding members of the EMSI 1 Board of Trustees. And so I believe at this time, we need to give that meeting, that discussion over to the EMS Board. So if we conduct that.
I believe on the first one, the conflict of interest, I believe that has been resolved with Lowell Bartow's opinion.
I agree.
I agree, sir, because that is not a conflict of interest by statute.
Yep. In addition, anytime the bank comes up with business of the EMS, I abstain from the vote. Minutes will show that also.
Yes, sir.
And that's always been the practice.
Yeah. I think the only reason I wanted to come to this meeting is just to hear the audit findings and kind of clear the air. I think we've had some bad reports in the newspapers about allegations of missing equipment.
Yep.
I would just like to get it out in the open and have it on.
And that was the
YouTube right there,
purpose of this
everything
meeting.
else.
Like I said, I think last week when Lowell came in and cleared up the conflict of interest issue, and that's been involved. The audit by the state auditor and inspector was an audit from July 1st of 2009 through June 30th of 2013. And they did an excellent job. So, Jim is, you want, we'll go through finding items 1 through 7, I believe. Tell you what the error, what the audit finding was, what the corrective action has been, what we propose has been our corrective action. On item number 1, inadequate segregation of duties over receiving. I think there may have been a little, I think there was something about some serious audit findings. This one is not what we would consider serious. We have not, at least as long as I've been on the board, receiving meaning deposits. We've never made a deposit. Our money flows in from the county treasurer to the county's offices, so we physically don't get checks or cash or anything like that and fill out deposit slips and deposit them. However, the finding says we need to have segregation duties. If we do, if somebody ever pays us, which I don't think they would, I think it'd go to the county, I would think, or to the city, I'm sorry. But if we ever had to make a deposit for some reason, the way we would probably handle that is 2 people, like we do, and the next one's gonna be with expenses or checks. 2 people will sign that deposit slip. 2 people will initial that and make that deposit. Dual control. That's what the issue is over. Jim, did you have anything?
No, that's pretty good. Actually, we don't handle any cash. The county clerk actually makes our deposits. So there is a separation of duty. Why this finding was even in there, I don't really understand. It's just a cookbook deal.
Troy?
It should not have
I
been.
can just clarify, their money is collected by the county treasurer because it's millage. She runs what's called the apportionment, and that is how millage money is dispersed to all the entities that receive it, the schools, the EMS, et cetera. The Guthrie EMS money, for as long as I've been here, which is 18 years, the clerk takes that check and mails it with a deposit slip straight to the bank.
The only other deposits are interest earned on the funds in the bank. And that's obviously done by the bank. So we handle no money.
One of the things that receiving officers also do is they receive any consumables or any purchase items.
We don't receive any items either.
So you have no items that you ever purchased that are received by the EMS Board for the EMS Board.
No.
Very good.
Our expenditures are only reimbursements.
Reimbursements, yes, sir.
We'll get to that. But like I said, I think that's Like I said, if it does come up, the issue here is dual control, make sure not one person is controlling that deposit, that remittance, one person. And so there'll be two of us, we have a board of 5, so.
If I may, the way I read audit findings, so I start with the finding, right, the top of the finding, the condition, right? And so the condition on this finding, it says, while gaining an understanding of the receiving, depositing, and reconciliation functions of the Logan County EMS Service District, we noted that the treasurer performs the following duties: posts the ledgers and accounts, reconciles accounts, and verifies the deposits of the bank. And then the cause of the condition, the district has not designated and implemented policies and procedures to sufficiently segregate the collection process. So if that indeed is the explanation, right, then that probably should have been the management response, is kind of the way I'm looking at it, rather than, you know, the management response here is bank reconciliations, general ledgers are provided to the Board of Trustees for review at each quarterly meeting. Up until this point, I thought you guys did monthly meetings, is what I was told, but you quarterly meetings. So if you just meet once a quarter, I can see where, you know, you might put that administrative function off for a little bit, you know, and not think it's an important thing. However, it is important for separation of duties. Inadequate segregation of duties over receiving is a serious issue.
Yes, but I don't believe it's an issue that pertains to us, and the fact that we do not actually make deposits. We're looking at the risk here in the total enterprise risk management of the audit. And like I said, they went in and did a very thorough, very good audit, and came up with lots of things like that. Some of these things are directly applied to us, and we have made some changes, things like that. In a case like this, should we ever, the risk, I was trying to look at it from the risk standpoint, where is the risk to the taxpayers? Yeah, I mean, we can update our policies, procedures, things like that, should in case it ever happened.
Right. So in my view, I guess the auditor's the one that decides where the risk to the taxpayers, so that's where his opinion comes in. And then our job as recipients of those findings, especially in my area, I look at audit findings very seriously, even the ones I think are not so important. I think they're all important, but the ones that I think not so important, we still fix those too.
Yeah.
Okay, because they need to be fixed. Now, and so you made a mention that there are some things you were gonna do. Would you care to elaborate on those things you're gonna put in place for this issue?
Like I said, should we ever get any deposits or any type of thing to remit to the banks, we'll have 2 people initial deposit slip, will be handled under dual control.
Okay, so you've never had anything to remit back to the bank up until this point in time?
Have we ever had any deposits that?
No.
Okay,
I've been doing this for 7 or 8 years. And
Yeah, I hear
we
that.
have not had a deposit
I hear that a lot.
made in that 8 years.
I hear that a lot. We've been doing this for a long time. Okay, that was all I had on item 1. Thanks.
Item 2, inadequate segregation of duties over disbursements. I looked at this one, also is one where orders and received goods and services on behalf of the district and checks. The first thing I look at, it would be the checks. 2 signatures on every check. One of the issues here was 2 of us are not signing the invoice. We don't work under the purchase order system. We do invoices that comes in if we have something. Like the state auditor, did we pay them the audits?
Haven't yet.
Haven't yet. In the past, we have, I believe, is it the county treasurer or clerk that we pay that collects the
The
tax?
assessor bills us for their share, our share of the assessment fee. There's a bank box, not a bank box, the post office box, we have to pay that annually. We pay the fidelity bond insurance to cover the board members, that's once a year. The contract with the city. There's a contract with myself for my accounting services. There's a reimbursements to the city for ambulances, we've done that in the past. And that's about it. There's about 15 checks a year written.
Okay, your management response, let's start with conditions again, what I stated before, right? If I may. While gaining an understanding of the disbursements process of the district, we noted that the treasurer performs the following duties. So finding one and finding two are kind of together, right? So you've got the treasurer doing both of those duties, and I think that's why you got written up both times, for both these findings, was because the treasurer's doing both of these jobs, right? And there's no oversight from the board for these, and that's my view on it, so, yeah, go ahead, sir.
I think on oversight from the board, we do meet quarterly and stuff, of course, we review
Uh-huh.
all of these. The checks, when they are written, are signed, 2 signatures. So I don't, other than maybe going out and hiring a third-party accounting firm to do disbursement, I don't know.
Well, so here's the conditions. Orders and then receives goods and service on behalf of the district. You should have that split up. You shouldn't have someone ordering goods and that same person receiving the goods, right? Because that opens you up for fraud, right? So one person has the ability to order and receive, maybe put it on the inventory, maybe not. And so that's why this internal control is supposed to be in place to prevent that. They're not saying that happened, it's just saying that's why this internal control gets put in place.
Barry, do y'all order goods?
Jim, do we
That
work?
was my comment. We receive no goods or services other than the accounting fee and the contract with the city. Those are monthly checks. So there's really nothing to,
So y'all
Sign
basically
for.
just leased out to the city of Guthrie and everything pretty much runs to the city of Guthrie and y'all just pay your contract? Is that one?
yes, we have an annual contract with the city and monthly payments for the EMS services.
So just to get it clear in my mind, say they need something, they just buy it and the board reviews it and decides if you need to pay it or not?
They'll come to us before they do that and say, would you guys,
Is there
cons-
funds for
yeah,
this?
would you consider reimbursing us if we go out for bid on this piece of equipment or
And
something?
that's at your quarterly meeting.
Mhm.
Just trying to get it
Yeah,
clear in my
but
brain.
yeah, before we agree to do something, they don't just go out and do it and then come to us and say, oh, we did this.
There, by the way.
Yeah.
So what I heard was that y'all contract with the city of Guthrie for EMS services, right? For that service, right?
That's what's provided in the
Yeah,
law.
right, but you don't contract with the city to do administrative functions of the board, right?
I don't understand what you're asking.
What you've been appointed to do, the administrative functions of the EMS board. Those are the responsibility of the board, not the city, right? I guess I'm asking for concurrence on that. I'm wondering, with everything that's been outsourced, seems to the city, is that something that you guys do, or people at the city help you with?
The administration of the EMS board
Yes,
itself.
sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We do the administration of the EMS board.
Okay, I was just wanting to clarify that. Thanks. So, yeah, back to the segregation of duties has to do with the treasurer doing both of those issues. And I think those would be something you might want to consider. That's all I have on finding two.
Finding 3 bank reconciliations. On that, the first is based on the test work, the bank reconciliations were not reviewed by someone other prepared. Jim?
The bank reconciliations are done by me and my assistant in my office. And the financial statement that we present to the board trustees is the bank reconciliation that we do. We do it on a computer now, it's not by pencil like the old days.
All right.
That reconciliation is on a financial statement spreadsheet, and that's what I present to the board, that shows the beginning balance of the cash, it shows the deposits, it shows itemized deposits, it shows itemized disbursements, and the ending cash balance in each bank account that we have, and there are 4. And that's done every month, and that's presented to the board.
Quarterly?
Quarterly.
Okay. So you get 3 months, you get to look at 3 months reports every meeting, okay.
And I stated that to the auditor, and the accusation is that there's no bank reconciliation then, and the financial statement is the bank reconciliation, and the board sees that. And I told him that's my response in there, and
Okay, just a quick question. I heard something earlier that I wanted to follow back up with you on at this time. And when you mentioned that you and your assistant do the bank reconciliation and audit, you said you also contract with the board for accounting services. Is that part? Is that part of that service? So you're a member of the board and you actually charge the board for that service?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, so on bank reconciliations, it says they were not reviewed by someone other than the preparer, right, which would have been you as the board member. So if you contract that service out to yourself and you review it after it comes back from your firm, then that doesn't constitute two reviews.
Every quarter when we meet, we do review and approve the financials of the board. Right.
I think that's what you said in your management response as well. I guess my point is, I'm not sure that's trying to understand what the auditor's looking for and trying to respond to the auditor in a way that we can get back in compliance, or you can get back in compliance. But it's your board, right? So y'all have been appointed for another 5 years, and I'll be long gone a year by the time this comes back up again to our board. So as far as our business, I understand that you guys get to make those decisions. So, thank you, sir. I'm done with that.
Finding 4, expenditure documentation. Based upon inquiry and observation of the expenditure process following was noted, district did not use claims or purchase orders to keep records of expenditures incurred. Invoice and check stubs were kept for each payment, however, they were not attached to each other for record-keeping purposes. No evidence of receiving or verification of the claims was noted, and approval by the district board was not noted for any claims.
we don't use a purchase order system like the city or the schools, or I assume the county uses a purchase order system. We have that contract with the city, and we pay bills when they come in, and like I said, there's only like 4 bills that we pay all year. One is the county assessor, and the post office, and an insurance agent, and that's it. So a purchase order system is designed when there are multiple disbursements by any kind of entity, like a school or a city or a county. And there needs to be separation of duties when that goes on. I'm a former auditor myself, I know exactly how that works, and it's not needed in this situation because the bills that we pay are plain and simple, and the board sees them, and they happen every year like clockwork.
So you basically don't agree with the state auditor, so you're gonna do it your way. I get it, no problem.
No, that's not correct, sir.
That's what you
Don't
just
make
said.
Don't make accusations.
That wasn't an accusation, that was a statement, sir.
Any other questions? Non-compliance over pledged collateral, finding 5. On June 30, 2013, district funds were uncollateralized in the amount of $15,000, meaning we had $265,000 in one bank over the $250,000 FDIC limit. That finding was correct. We immediately drew down that balance. It did not go to F&M Bank, it went to another bank to keep all the balances below the 250. I believe that one's been resolved. We're watching that balance closer. There is some kind of, I wanted to bring out, there is, in banking regulation, FDI Act 24, Federal Deposit Insurance Act 24, is kind of gray, but we're not a county political subdivision. The EMS Board is not, okay? And technically, banks are not supposed to pledge securities to cover these deposits. They can. But the FDIC Act clearly states that in case of the bank failure, these pledges would not be honored. Now, that stuff gets fought in court every time there's a bank failure. So, I just wanted to bring that to you guys so you'll know that the county funds absolutely should be pledged and rightfully so. But if Joe Bob comes in and he's got a business, something like that, technically, we're not supposed to pledge for that because it would be worthless. So, we checked into that, but the answer to this is yes, we were over the FDIC limit. We are not anymore. Watch that closer. We especially need to watch it, I believe, at the first of the year, December, January, when the bulk of our funds come in. We need to make sure that they're spread out. And we will do a much better job of that. Any questions on 5?
Would you explain, and this is just for informational purpose for everyone here. The treasurer's not here, or maybe she could explain this, but as far as this finding, could you explain a little bit what that under collateralized finding
Yeah.
actually means? Could you explain
Yes, I
that
can.
technically?
In the state of Oklahoma, banks are required, or if they want public funds to remain in the bank, they need to pledge marketable securities of 110% of the dollar amount, over $250,000. So if you've got $1,250,000, you got $1 million over the FDIC limit, the bank would need to pledge $1,100,000 in securities to cover that. And that's the part there about the under pledge. That would be the case. If the bank only had 500,000 pledged, we would be under pledged, in that case, $500,000.
One other question I have as far as the banking regulations in Oklahoma. The banking nationwide is a fractional reserve type bank system, loan system, right? So a bank that keeps, the way I understand it, if a bank keeps $100,000 on deposit, it's able to loan in increments of that up to 10 times. I think 10 times, that's what I've heard. So my question though goes back to, are government deposits, county deposits, subject to allowing that depositor, that bank, to use that in incremental financing?
The quick answer is yes.
Okay.
And that is why it's imperative that public treasurers, county treasurers, things like that, city, make sure that they're pledged. And that's exactly it. Say we have $20 million in deposits, easy math, and 10 million of it is a public entity, and we have 20 million in loans, so we're completely loaned out. All those deposits are loaned out, and the bank fails. The depositors over $250,000, in most cases, are not going to be remunerated. The county entity or the city or the state that's got that pledges there, those securities that are pledged are converted to cash,
Right.
and the money's paid back. And then also the lending out of 10 times, also you've got to factor in the bank's capital. We're limited also on loans based on our capital, how much we're willing to put up, that kind of stuff.
Okay, so there's no so when the county's money, or let's say appropriated funds, just leave it at that, appropriated funds are deposited in a commercial financial institution, then they're not protected from being leveraged by that financial organization as far as loans are concerned. It's still, they're able to use that, right?
That is correct.
Okay,
Whether it's loans or securities,
right.
yes.
Okay, that was the answer to that.
And I'm unsure what appropriate, I don't know much about appropriated funds, I'm not sure about that.
That's where the legislature says this much money comes from this tax or that tax.
Okay, yeah.
Ad valorem tax is appropriated fund, that's what it's.
Yeah, I would assume, if the county treasurer sets up an ad valorem tax fund
Right.
and a fee fund or something else, however that goes,
Yeah.
that money's thrown in, it would be,
Well, I appreciate the finding 5 explanation. This is a very important one financially for the county because, if it's not paid attention to, we can't lose.
yeah, and I believe there have been 4 in the last 4 or 5 years in the state of Oklahoma, there have been 4 bank failures. So, and yes, that has been resolved, it was rectified very quick. We will continue to monitor that. Item number 6, noncompliance with competitive bidding requirements. Based on inquiry and observation of the expenditure process, it was noted the district reimbursed the city for the purchase of ambulance. These purchases were made with the district funds, and as a result were incurred without utilizing the competitive bidding process in accordance with 19 OS 1723. That's one that we've talked about. I'm not sure, I don't know where the misunderstanding, miscommunications, or at least maybe I don't know, but we reimburse the city, and the city goes through their competitive bidding process as according to our contract with them. And then upon completion of that, and as long as it's within state laws and everything else, then we reimburse them for that. So I
think we are not subject to the competitive bidding rules because we don't make the purchase.
yeah.
And that's how
I
we
think
stated
it's,
it.
and I think we probably just didn't explain it maybe to the auditor or clear enough. I think that must be it on this one, I don't know.
I think that is what your management response says, absolutely. And the criteria down here that the auditors quote, right, says Title 19, Section 1723, requires EMS districts to make purchases in accordance with county purchasing procedures. It doesn't say may,
Well, I
it
agree,
says
that's
will.
what the law says, but we don't make purchases.
So you don't follow the law.
We don't make
We don't
purchases.
make purchases.
We don't make purchases.
What I'm saying here is that it says the EMS boards will do this, not.
Yes, if we make a
If we
purchase
make
over
a
10,000, we would follow the competitive bidding act if we made a purchase.
I think what they're saying though is that you're doing your purchasing wrong if you allow the city to go purchase something and then you just say, oh yeah, we'll pay for it.
I think you're misinterpreting.
Yeah, I think, and I think,
I'm in good stead there, I think, with the Inspector General.
I think maybe what we need to do is sit down with the state auditor, and there's two ways to contract EMS services, two ways to do this, according to the big book. One is we go out and we hire an administrator, we buy the ambulances, competitive bidding, we buy the equipment, we do it all ourselves. We do it all ourselves. That's where we run it, manage it, own the ambulances, build the bar. Yeah, like that, okay? That's one way. And when you do that, yes, everything applies. Anything over $10,000, we're buying it, Under the second way, the second option is where we contract out those services. And under that, in our book, and maybe there's a conflict with the way the state rule's written, and maybe there's a conflict with the way they wrote the rules. That's let an attorney figure that one out. But under that, it says that we can reimburse the city. The city will use their competitive bidding practices, requirements, as long as they meet state law and things of that nature. So that's the path we're going. We're not like the Crescent EMS where they buy it and do it themselves. And pay people, they pay the administrators, they pay the EMTs, things of that nature. We don't do that. So I think that's where the misunderstanding is. I'm not sure.
I think what it says here is that this title says that EMS districts will use county purchasing procedures
Yes.
for bids over $10,000.
And that conflicts with what?
But it really, so if you contract out
Uh-huh.
to someone else, that the people you contract with still have to follow those
Yes,
purchasing procedures.
and that's what our contract with the city says.
And I believe your board's responsible to oversee that, to make sure
Yes.
it's being done correctly.
Yes.
Or else this finding wouldn't have came up.
I don't believe that is it. I believe it is required in our contract for the city to use competitive bidding. Yes. We do have to make sure that happens. Yes, they come in.
The
with
city has
competitive-
competitive bidding laws, just like the county does, and they follow them to a T. This should have never been brought up. The city bought the stuff, not the county, not the EMS district. This shouldn't even be brought up.
And I think
So,
that
I'm sorry, for the record, would you state your name and title and who you represent, please?
I'm Eric Harlow. I'm the fire chief and EMS director for the city of Guthrie, which is the contractor for this EMS district.
Okay, so you're a city employee making
Correct.
unsolicited comments at a board meeting? Okay, go
I'm
ahead.
answering a comment from my board
And
director.
I,
that
and
I'm
I
the
just want to
contractor.
clarify, I think the state auditor, he's absolutely quoted out of this deal, but there are two sections in this book, the two different ways you contract, and I think that's where the confusion is. Maybe we can sit down with them and clarify that. By all means, If we're outside competitive bidding deal with our contract, we'll fix it. I mean, there's nothing there, but I don't think
that's what
we are.
I think that's what the IG says.
I don't think I think it's a misunderstanding. And I think if we could sit down and talk about it, and maybe not air it out in the newspaper or whatever else, I think we could sit down with them and say, here's the deal, are we right on this? Or if that's not the case, if they don't wanna do that, then we can use the money and we can, reduce services and hire an attorney
You know,
to
Barry,
give his opinion.
I agree 100% with what you just said. It would've been nice if we'd have sat down, if you'd have sat down
I
with this
did.
audit.
Remember
family.
when I called you on Thursday and I asked you?
No, I'm talking about with the auditor.
Oh, with the auditor, I'm
If you
sorry.
guys, when this had come out and you'd sat down with the auditor and went over this stuff with them and explained all this.
Yes.
Misunderstandings.
Yes.
We wouldn't have had them.
You're
And I probably wouldn't have raised it as an issue, right?
You're probably right.
Okay, thank you,
Yes.
sir. But it is explained.
I'm not really a wordsmith. I don't write good articles. I'm not a public speaker. I should have done a better job with the auditor when he came in, tried to explain it better, clear.
All right, so we got some.
But you're
work
right,
to do.
Barry. The way you're doing it, I think you're right. It's
Yes,
city's responsibility to do that,
Yeah.
not yours.
Yes, I agree with that.
Hopefully that'll make the newspaper too.
Not that any other questions?
No, that's,
Okay. What I'd like to do, let's get a hold of the auditor and let's double check with him. Like I said, the young man that did the audit also coming from the audit side of the bank, did a thorough job.
That was my plan, to do that.
Okay. Finding 7, and we'll rediscuss it. Finding 7, inventory records. 3 different things here, kind of 3 different deals. I think on the first, it is, our records. First, we don't own any ambulances. We don't own any cots. We don't own any blood pressure monitors, anything like that. We may have, and probably do, we do reimburse obviously the city when they take an ambulance out of service and they buy a new one. They go through their competitive bidding, we reimburse them, agree upon it in advance, everything else. Sometimes they even replace boxes. We've been on the board, they used to come in and the chassis was fine and they would buy a new box for the ambulance. Things like that. So I think what we did here is policies, procedures. I think probably our list of equipment used and owned by the city, EMS service, we do have the right and we will get an updated list, and we do have the right, according to our contract, to inspect it during regular business hours, Monday through Friday, that kind of stuff.
And the contract says that the city will allow our agent or our representative,
Yes.
which would be the auditor, to go inspect those inventory records, and apparently he did not, is my opinion.
the auditor, which auditor, you got an auditor on your board?
No, the state auditor, the
Yes.
IG.
Yeah, the state auditor doesn't work for your board. He's in.
I didn't say he worked for him, what
To
he,
go, but you said to
but we
go inspect
authorized
it.
him to do that. He didn't do anything without our authorization.
I think this finding can be taken care of easily also. We'll get an updated current list of ambulances and equipment, things like that, that we reimburse the city for. This thing kind of happened about the same time that our unexpired term of Glenn Elston. Glenn would go out and do the inspections, things like that. He got into a bad elf. We didn't catch that, we didn't get that done. We should have pulled him off and done it quicker. Our mistake on that. But as far as missing inventory and missing equipment, we don't have any. Again,
So you have no inventory.
no, but we do have the right to go inspect the city's inventory,
Correct.
but we
Correct.
don't, if you look, if we had like a business, if we had a balance sheet and it listed our assets, you wouldn't see any other than cash. We don't have a building, we don't have equipment, we don't have ambulances, we don't have blood pressure cuffs, nothing like that. So
But you buy those things, right?
we reimburse the city for them, yes.
You buy those things
We
with.
reimburse the city for them, yes.
Right, you buy those
We
things.
reimburse the city.
Right.
Do you buy them, do they give them to you?
Okay, so you reimburse the city out of EMS funds appropriated for that purpose, right?
Yes.
To provide the service. Okay, so follow me for just a second here. So all of this equipment that we're talking about here was purchased with funds appropriated for EMS, for the EMS system, right? For the EMS district, right? Okay, so we've got 7 items on here that can't be found on the inventory, 3 that weren't on the inventory that were there as far as ambulances. So what happened to the items that are no longer, that can no longer be found? Were those surplused, or, I'm asking the board here, we really don't have, really don't have on our agenda,
Yeah.
where the public can speak, so
Okay.
if someone's not on this.
He's an ex
The
officio
public-
of our board.
This is a contractor who contracts with the EMS board. So
Okay.
therefore, he's not just a citizen, he is the director of the city EMS, not EMS, but the city medical,
I thought he was the chief of the city fire department.
correct.
Okay. And he's a
And
member of this board?
He is an employee of the city.
He's
He is the liaison that works with the board.
Right.
This is the board's person with the city that they work with.
okay.
And
So I'm
so
asking-
he's the one that has
So if we
that
wanna-
inventory that
So-
you're talking about.
Bring yourself up here. You're gonna be a part of the conversation.
Do I have permission to speak? Board
Yes, you
Chairman?
have permission to speak, sir.
Well, this is a dual meeting, and they're in charge of this meeting also, and I'm answering a question from you.
Yes.
Mr.
For us.
Jackson. Okay. Audit findings on the inventory. The 1999 F-350 was traded in on another vehicle. That is in minutes of the Guthrie City Council where that transaction was done. The 2007 F-450 that shows no longer at the district, it was in the shop at the time they were there for the audit.
That's the 2007.
The 2007 F-450, item number 2, that says it was not at the district. The 2008 F-350 was traded in. It's on minutes of Guthrie City Council. It was traded in for the purchase of the Dodge 4500 that is at the district but not on the inventory record, which is listed below item number 3. That's all of the vehicles that they say were not at the district. The following 3 were not on the inventory record, but were at the district. The 2005 F-450, it was there, yes, not on the inventory record. Why does that matter? I got a lot of fire trucks that were at the district too, but they're not on the inventory record.
Was it purchased with EMS?
Doesn't matter, they don't ask that question. It was never brought up in the audit. It's an ambulance, therefore they threw it on there. There's a no year listed F-350, I don't know why they don't have a year, but I'm assuming that's gonna be the 2009
It was
ambulance.
a pretty simple question. Was that ambulance purchased with EMS funds?
Partially, yes.
Partially?
Yes.
Partially, okay.
Yep.
So
The
that's
city
why,
purchased
that's
it.
why it's listed on here, I believe.
I'd still think that there's issue with the EMS does not purchase anything. We reimburse the city
Oh, we're.
for their purchase.
The EMS board's responsible for keeping up with the EMS funds. All right.
Oh, yes, with the funds,
Yes,
yes.
absolutely. Okay.
Yes.
And that's kind of where I'm going with this.
Equipment that is purchased,
Okay, so once equipment is
other
sold,
than you inspected.
we'll get into that. So, the Dodge 450, you said partially?
No, the
Partially.
Ford F-450 2005 was purchased used.
Okay.
The city paid for a portion, the EMS district reimbursed the city for a portion. But the entire purchase was made by the city of Guthrie.
Can I also, and I think I may be able to end this, but maybe get one. Our inventory list was not up to date and current at the time of the audit. It has been, and we need that so we can go out and do our periodic random inspections. And the whole goal behind that is to make sure that the city, the EMS, is, got the proper equipment. It's not, that it's, you know, if we go out and we see an ambulance that's crashed or in disrepair, we need to discuss with them, are they gonna, it's their responsibility to fix it, not because, but are they gonna fix it, do we need, is it a trade-in issue, that kind of stuff, and then, but the gist of the matter is, yes, we need to keep a better inventory list.
What we can do in the future is to get the city's inventory
Yes.
list and take that down there and verify that that's what's parked in the road.
Yeah.
Rather than maintaining our own inventory, because that's the requirement in the contract, that they maintain an inventory and allow us access to it at any time during business hours. And we will do that in the future and use their inventory and verify that it's there.
Might suggest maybe a change to that, and that as the inventory changes, they would send you an updated copy instead of whenever you want to see one, right?
We'll suggest that.
That's just a.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to this trade-in thing, I'm kind of curious about, because, let's see, EMS appropriated funds was used to buy that, or reimburse the city for it, however you want to talk about it. And then it was subsequently traded in. The dollar value of that trade-in was deposited where? Where did that go?
Went towards the purchase of the new vehicle.
Who maintained that money, the funds of that traded-in vehicle? Who did that?
Anytime you trade in a vehicle, like if you trade in your car, they don't give you $6,000 and just say give it back to me, it's just on paper.
Yeah, we're not talking about me trading in my car.
Well-
But we could talk about me trading in one of my county vehicles, and I'd be willing to compare that with you, but yeah.
Let's hear it. I'd like to hear how that would work.
Well, okay, so the trade-in, I'm kind of wondering, so it was traded in for what? What was purchased with that?
It was done
trade-in?
before my tenure, but I do know the 1999 vehicle, the box is actually on the 2009 vehicle. They traded the chassis in, they remounted the box on a new one.
Uh-huh.
All to the same manufacturer.
You know, that's well and good, right? So here's my issue. If we're not keeping track of the money,
We're keeping track of the money. Every penny in the EMS district account every penny is accounted for.
okay,
When we
so.
reimburse them, it's an agreed to. They can sit there and say, I need, we're gonna buy a $150,000 ambulance through the city's bidding process. Would you gentlemen would you be interested in reimbursing us $47,867.23 because we're gonna get a trade-in, or we're gonna trade in the old one, this and that. And our point is, as long as it's through the competitive bidding, and if it will enhance the service, then we would reimburse you $47,000 for the purchase of a new ambulance. You do the trade-in, you do that stuff, you do the bidding.
Who does the property actually belong to at that
The
point?
city,
The city?
the
Yeah.
city.
Okay, to provide contracted services for the EMS, right?
Yes.
So there again, so if, I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna keep going back to the circle on following the money, right?
Yes.
So this Ford F-350 here, the 2008, it was traded in.
The Dodge.
I'm not sure that follows
But see,
the
Mark,
laws that we're supposed to be looking
okay,
at.
I think, now, we don't have to go by the competitive bidding, because remember, we didn't.
You've already said you outsource that to the city.
They do.
They
So-
do.
so
They're
I
the
would
ones
think-
that have to go.
I would
through
think
it.
maybe you need to get Serena in here and the city, and maybe the city council, and you guys go over the competitive biddings. That has nothing to do with EMS.
Oh, I think it has everything to do with the.
I don't think it does. I think
Because
we
it's your
pretty clearly
finding.
say.
Because it's your finding. It's
Again,
not
I think
ours.
if we sit down and talk to the state auditor, I'll do a much better job if we sit down and clarify this. I evidently was butchering up the language.
Okay, so the F-350 on 99 was traded in, and the Ford F-350 2008 was traded in. The 450 is in the shop, so it's still in service? Is that
Two
right?
450s listed on this whole audit are still in service.
I'm
right
talking
now.
about the one that wasn't there when the auditors were.
Yes.
there. Okay, so it's still in service, it is there, so
Correct.
it's just an inventory. Or just someone didn't bother to tell the auditor that it was in the shop. Okay, so vehicles traded in, I still think that,
The auditor went there.
I still think that's a little bit, that needs to be looked into, because if the EMS board provides funds to buy a piece of equipment, and it doesn't matter if you're contracted out with someone.
I think it
Or
does.
not.
That's
If-
where I think
If you
it
will let
does.
me finish my statement, then you can
Well,
disagree,
we
right?
keep asking the same thing over and over.
And I'm gonna keep repeating the same
Okay.
thing over and over till I get through this,
Okay,
okay?
okay. Done to the bathroom or anything for a while?
Yeah. go
Can we
ahead.
take a break?
Yeah, the good news, no one's.
I don't
It's
know
about
what
a-
to tell you. I
it's
don't
about
know
a-
what to tell
It's
you.
about a 1 minute
Okay.
question that I've
Okay.
got, all right? So, if we purchase equipment with EMS funds, when that equipment is disposed of or
Mhm.
or done away with, whatever residual value is left in that belongs back to the EMS.
No, it does not, no, and thank you for bringing that up. We reimburse the city, okay? The strings are cut then. The city can take that ambulance, they can paint it green, they can paint it blue, they can do whatever they want as long as it enhances the EMS district. As long as it enhances the district. They've got to use it for that purpose. We don't own it, Marvin. If they, 2 years later, they want to swap it for a helicopter or whatever, an ambulance helicopter or whatever, I don't know. They would come to us and say, we're going to swap this for a helicopter. We'd say, well, we're not going to reimburse you for that. But anyway, that's theirs. That's not, we can't go back to them and say, oh, well, that ambulance now is worth $500,000. Give me the money back. It's not ours to do that with. According to what I've read and to what our contract says, we don't. We can't do that. Now I can tell you this, we can get back every piece of equipment will come back to this EMS district if the city's EMS service is decertified. And that's in the contract and that's in the law, or whatever this document is.
So, your premise here is that once the EMS board buys a piece of equipment.
Reimburses.
We don't buy it.
Once the EMS board reimburses the city for a piece of equipment for EMS services, your responsibility for that piece of equipment is no longer a part of, the board no longer has any responsibility for that.
That is right. We
Oh,
don't.
so hang on.
Okay.
So can you give me a statute reference, a law reference that quotes that you're using to quote that with?
You mean the contract?
No, I don't care about contracts.
No, I can't. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know that.
Okay.
I'm looking at the contracts we have, and I'm
Okay,
looking,
so-
I've read through our handbook that we get when we go on the board. And so, you know, I mean, we could hire a law firm to give us an opinion.
I think the statutes outline that, but, you
What
know,
statute is it?
it has to do with the EMS, it has to do with appropriation of funds.
I'm unfamiliar with appropriation of funds.
Okay, so my understanding is anytime funds are appropriated by the legislature for a specific purpose,
Mhm.
and those funds are used to buy equipment, services, or whatever, if the equipment is sold or whatever, the proceeds from that have to go back to the original appropriation account. That's the law,
Okay.
as I understand it.
Is that a public entity? Is that's county government, city
It's
government?
county government.
Okay, you know that we're not county government, right? I mean, we already clarified that, right?
It doesn't say anything
Okay.
about whether it's county
Then
government,
what I
city
would
government, whatever.
recommend-
That's a state law.
It's in the establishment of the EMS districts.
Would you guys like for us to spend money and have an attorney give us an opinion on that?
No.
No.
Not in our purview to
Okay.
determine whether or
I
not.
mean-
It seems to be what you're asking.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm.
No, I didn't ask anything. I wanted to have this before this reappointment took place. This is kind of like closing the barn door after the animals are gone. So I think we should have done this a lot earlier.
Like I said, I
but,
called you, and on that Thursday before the first meeting, I said
Exactly.
I'd come out and go over anything with you.
Right, and then you showed up at the meeting and weren't allowed to talk.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, guess what? It wasn't
But that-
wasn't on the agenda.
Exactly.
Like,
It was not on the
Citizens-
agenda to
citizens-
discuss the audit.
like citizens wishing to be heard, not being on this one, but are.
He is
allowed
a
to
member of
talk.
our board.
I understand. Oh,
No, you don't.
she's not.
Apparently not.
Any other, like I said, what do you want us
What do
to
you want
do?
from us?
What do you want us on the inventory list?
What I want you to
And
do
the
is
money.
resign as chairman of the board,
I thought that would be it.
okay?
I'll tell you what, I'll resign as chairman of the EMS board if you'll resign the county commission. How's that?
I will in 4 years.
Okay, I will in 5 years.
See, there you go. You'll be gone. So
We're good?
no, because
Oh.
I have to make good on my promise before you do.
Oh, I promise you, I'll put it in writing. In fact, I'll resign now and date it for 5 years.
I don't think so.
I will. Can I do that?
You can. but
I'll
I-
give it to the district attorney and I'll go to jail if I'm not resigned in 5 years.
So there still seems to be quite a lot of, so all of these things that,
Marvin, I think we just got I say a lot of stupid things, I think you say a lot of stupid things. Well, that's dangerous.
well,
Yeah, you aren't.
Let's get back to this audit
Yeah.
report.
That has
Ask
nothing
her
to do
what-
with the
that
audit
has nothing to
report.
do with
That
the
is
board.
what we're asking.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what I wanted to know from you. What do you want from me?
what I
Other than
want,
resignation.
no, what I really want from our boards is to represent the people of,
Yeah.
of our county.
And you know what?
And have the best interest of the people
Yes.
in mind, in court.
The
And
We
Guthrie
do.
District.
We do. We're
The
trying, we don't
Guthrie-
spend
Guthrie EMS
unwarranted
district.
money.
that's the Logan EMS district, isn't it?
No, sir, it's the Guthrie EMS
I
district.
believe it
Every
says
penny we
Logan.
have-
It's like at Crescent, oh, it does say that.
It's Logan County EMS, right?
Right.
So what are we not doing
Yeah.
for the Logan County people that you think we should be doing?
Well, there's
Well, Logan
all of
County's
these
not
things
who-
here on the audit findings
And we have
are
not
pretty
answered
telling.
those,
Not, I mean, you did answer them.
not to your
To-
satisfaction.
Well, not, well, this audit report shows that you answered it, right? But the management finding responses here are a bit cavalier.
In your opinion,
Okay, we'll humbly resubmit them and put them in
in your
different
opinion,
terms. I mean,
But
you're not the auditor either.
I am not the auditor, I am the commissioner, and my only job in this whole thing is appointing board members, right? I don't, and we're, like I said, we're having this meeting way after the fact that where we should have had this meeting.
Exactly.
As far as this-
Because you didn't put
Because
it
you
down
didn't
as
put
an
it on the
agenda
agenda.
item, and I thought you were
Well,
gonna do
evidently,
that.
now it's your opinion.
I believe we should go
That's what
ahead
they're
and
telling
have a
me.
break
That's what
and
he's
clear
mad.
the air, have a bathroom break,
Amen.
and so let's
You're just-
recess
You
this.
don't wanna make a resolution.
That's all right
You just
with your
wanna serve.
board,
Yes.
and
I-
let's
I
go
wanna-
for a
I wanna look
recess,
at
please,
the
and come back here in about, say, 10 minutes. That would make it 10:02, or about 10, in that neighborhood. Very good. We're in recess.
Right. We are reconvening our board as,
We're reconvening EMS.
okay, so let's then continue.
Was it, on inventory records, we will update and maintain our record of inventory that the city of Guthrie owns that they use for EMS services. We will do a better job on our random annual inspections. Is that adequate? Or do you want us to get an opinion?
As far as this last finding that we talked about, the equipment here,
Yeah.
and that sort of stuff, what I would like to see is a detailed accounting of the equipment that was traded in or sold or otherwise used for a purpose other than EMS, or was retired from the EMS contract. That includes these other items, these other 4 items here at the bottom, like, even though, I mean, some of them are like a couple $3,000 items. So there's one $3,500 piece of equipment here, and, you know, I think as far as, if the intent here is to give an accounting to the people of what's happened, I think that that's something that I would like to see presented to the people. Where did it go? Who was it sold to? How much did we get? Where did the funds go? Those are the questions I'd like to see answered.
Of course, I can tell you, when the funds are checking accounts with City of Guthrie, I cannot speak and I do not know the answers, other than they go through the competitive bidding process, that they can, will, should give us that information. I don't know.
And they are audited.
We can
is that
sure
correct?
ask.
So they are audited for what they do with that same equipment that you reimburse for. So there is an accounting system here, there is a check and balances. Even though the auditor didn't follow through that far, probably because of miscommunication with that auditor is what I'm getting at.
And I don't know the answers, but when he leaves the EMS audit and goes into the city's books, is that a different audit? Or is that a
I
continuation?
would think so.
You would think it'd be a separate audit, is what I would think.
I would think so.
I think it's speculative for us to even.
Okay.
You need to ask the auditor.
I understand where you're coming from. Let us do some talking to Steve, see what we can figure out. Okay?
So, I mean, that request I just made, of a detailed accounting of where this stuff that's not there went, where, who it was sold to, how much, and where did the money go? Those are the questions I've got.
Okay.
Okay.
On that, I would assume anytime you trade in a vehicle, I know on the county side, if I'm trading in a piece of equipment for another one, it's all on my bid.
Correct.
I mean, we're bidding it to
One
be traded
bid.
in. I do not know about the city of Guthrie, I would only assume that's the way they wrote their bids.
Yeah, and I don't know.
I
about
would
city.
assume that.
Okay.
I will say that it is.
And just accurate, is that all public information? So, I mean,
Sure.
the city can't say, oh, no, we're protecting that?
I would assume.
Okay. Then I guess we probably.
It's
get
in
hold of
city
this.
council
So,
minutes.
so, yeah, as a matter of fact, all of this information that the auditors were asking the city for was public information as well,
Okay.
that they didn't get.
Okay.
Any
If they ask.
any other items on 7? Because I think that was probably the gist of the deal, the quote-unquote missing assets and all that kind
So
of
have
stuff.
I got a commitment to get that report back to us?
I'll go to the city and ask for that information. I guess the Public Meeting Act, Open Meeting Act, is that how,
The,
I'm naive on this kind of stuff?
Open record.
That's
Open
correct.
record, yeah.
Get the inventory records.
Yeah,
Like
we'll get, the
updated
inventory records today will be updated,
And they
in fact, they've
ought
already
to, and they
been.
ought to show that.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
And then
what I
you
wanna
wanna
see
go
is,
back.
I wanna see the
You wanna go
disposition of the
back.
equipment.
And that's what, that's, if you'll give us a little time, we'll go back to the city and start getting
Absolutely.
that stuff.
Absolutely. When should, how much time do you think you need on that?
I've never done that before. Jim, do you have any idea?
Not my department, can't answer.
Well, I
I'd say
mean,
till
if
you
we
got
don't
it.
know.
How much, for me to follow up, for us to follow, how much
30
time, a
days.
month?
I know I'll be gone a week, I'll be gone a week next week.
Right, so y'all wanna reschedule another joint meeting and talk about this in a month, so we can get back together and talk about this one?
Wow.
It's y'all's problem.
Can we not give the report to you?
Yeah, if I could figure out when it's gonna, yeah, well, I'm trying to
When we
figure
get the
out
information, we'll,
Okay,
once
so-
we ask, we'll know how long it's gonna take to get that done.
sometime before Barry resigns from.
Yeah, we'll get within that 5-year period.
no
We-
question.
Very rude.
I've never done this before, I've never been on these open record acts and stuff, so I'm, other than going up to the city and
Asking.
asking, I'm not sure where you even start or what to look for, but we'll get the inventory list we've already got, and then we'll start trailing that back. A month sounds reasonable.
Okay.
Possibly.
If it's not, we'll
Give
come
or
back to you and
take.
say we don't have the
Yeah,
information, but we'll get
you
it.
know, maybe a month from now, I'll give you what I've got, and we're still working on other pieces. Is that,
Well, perhaps when you do have that information, if you would contact our county clerk, and he could then schedule it on our next regular meeting, or possibly a special meeting.
now, what about the issue though, like on that equipment? We can tell you where all it went and everything else, but there's not a thing we can do about it, because we don't own the equipment. Is
Correct.
that a different issue?
I don't think it's an issue.
Don't think it is.
Okay.
I don't believe that it is at all.
All right.
All right.
Finding number 8, funding of an audit expense account. From the period of July 1st, 2009 through 2013 does not appropriate the mandatory 1/10 mil to the audit expense account. Further, balance in previous years were not properly carried forward. We'll set up, we'll set up a policy to include 1/10 mil to be appropriated for the audit fee each year. I think what the deal was, we had the money, for lack of better words, in the general funds.
The money was appropriated in a general category to appropriate for all expenditures. What the auditors and what the law says is that you have to pull this number out and separate it and show it on a separate line. And that's not been done.
Right, yes, sir. We had, this of all the audit findings in here, this is probably if we're gonna go from major to minor, this one will be on the minor scale, I think. I mean, the auditors, it's our responsibility as public officials to pay for the auditor to become auditors, right? Even the county had an issue with that back in 2010, 2009, 2010, where the county is audited every 2 years, right? But we're required to set aside audit funds every year in every budget. And so those were questions that we had to go through, that the county had to go through back then. But yeah, it's just one of those things, the auditor wants to make sure that funds are being set aside for them to do their services as well. Because a lot of counties and a lot of boards don't do that. And so they end up going out and doing the audits and not getting paid, and then that gets to be an issue too. Not that we're doing that here, but yeah, I appreciate that. That's, so that goes to all of those, right?
Yep.
Okay.
The 8 audit findings from the audit. I think one of the things to remember here is, I'm saying, if we have to, if the law or the statutes, whatever change, I still think mainly is that we don't own, the EMS district does not own any asset, we don't own any real estate, any buildings, any ambulances, any blood pressure cuffs, things that are used or useful in a successful EMS service, we don't own them. If the city has a need, they would request a reimbursement for us in advance before they purchase, go through their bidding processes and things like that. That's the main thing I saw in this whole audit that jumped out at me, is I just think that we just didn't explain that, and to the auditor, and I think in the big book of EMS districts, there's two ways, and it's mentioned kind of side by side, so it uses the word "or" a lot. If you run it this way, you can do this and this and this. If you run it this, or you can run it this way, you can do this, this, and this. And that's where I kind of went back and highlighted and tried to break it apart. And I think that may be where the misunderstandings are, is we contract out the service. The city owns the ambulances, the city owns all that stuff. They maintain them, they put gas in them, they have insurance on them. They train the staff, all that kind of stuff. We monitor their ambulance runs, the times, how many they're making, where they're going, all that kind of stuff. We monitor that at our every quarter meetings, which is part of our requirements. And then as long as I've been on the board, and I think it's been 8 years, something like that, we've never had anyone, at least for me, or come to our board and complained about the service itself. So, it takes me too long or something like that. In fact, I'm pretty sure over the time I've been on the board, the actual response times have sped up. And I think that's twofold. I think one is maybe the equipment is a little bit newer, a little bit more responsive. And secondly, without a doubt, I think there are more paved roads now than what there used to be. Because I know one of the big deals is when they go out on some of these rural roads,
That is correct.
they can get stuck. So I'm
Hey,
pretty
not in
certain.
District 3 now.
Well, maybe in District 2 in a few.
Well, let me just say, in the school district, and we cover, our district is the EMS 1, Guthrie School District is the area that we cover.
So really, Logan County EMS is a misnomer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it should be,
And it really should be Guthrie EMS.
yeah, and I think somewhere
Just
on there.
like Cashin EMS is Cashin
Yeah.
EMS.
And they call it
Preston
District
EMS.
1, they call it Logan County EMS District 1, I think is the technical name. And the District 1 refers to the school district number 1, which is Guthrie Public Schools. Yeah.
And that's set up by statute.
Yeah, one of the things is the way that you, there are processes and procedures in here if you want to expand, shrink, dissolve, merge districts and stuff like that. That stuff starts primarily, it looked like to me it was an initiative petition that comes through you guys. So any changes like that you want. Other than that, I think we probably stay focused on what the board's supposed to do, which is provide capable EMS services within the guidelines that we're given.
So in summary here, it seems to be there's some confusion between the state auditor, the EMS, Logan County EMS Board, District 1, and the city of Guthrie over contract issues and equipment and the way the contracting is being done. There's some differences maybe differences of opinion or confusion. You said confusion. There's some confusion. So I think it's incumbent to do away with confusion and engage those people and engage the folks that understand the statutes
Yeah,
better if needed.
yeah. I don't know so much that the city, you know, I mean, their contract with EMS, I think, is pretty cut and dry. We need to go back to the auditor and clarify these conditions. And if it is a state law or, you know, if we're supposed to track that money from beginning to end, we'll do that. I don't, and again, I'm not familiar with appropriations, but pretty
Yeah,
clearly in
still.
here, you don't have to.
Yet still, when you had this contract made up between the EMS
Mhm.
board and the city of Guthrie, then that would have been legal counsel that drew up that contract. And one would hope anyway that the legal counsel you had addressed the statutes to make certain that this contract meets the requirements of the statute.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, in our books, the state, and I can't think what they call this thing, the State Department of Health published a 400 and some page book. They put sample contracts in here, and ours pretty much mirrors one of the sample contracts.
Got you.
So, yeah. And our contract with the city of Guthrie mirrors
Right.
their samples that they use.
Correct.
And like I said, there's, the main thing, my main point is there's two different ways to do this. Crescent does theirs one way, we do ours over here differently.
And this is gonna be an issue, I believe, on our March 2nd agenda as to how that funding is acquired for Logan County EMS District 1 district
I was unfamiliar,
and such as this. So this is
I-
something that's gonna be coming up in a forthcoming commissioner meeting.
March 2nd?
I believe March the 2nd, is that not Monday?
You guys gonna talk about that?
I have no, I knew nothing about that.
It's totally different.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not
Yeah.
totally different, but it's an issue that I
Okay.
think will be coming up, but I'm not sure about March 2nd.
March 2nd should be on the agenda.
Is what I've heard on the street.
Yes, it should be, because I requested it be put on there. That was my request.
We have no control over our funding, by the way, so if it goes up or down or whatever happens.
Correct.
We-
But currently, the only funding you receive from that free millage is from the Guthrie School
Yes,
District
from,
area.
yeah, from property owners within Guthrie School District. Yeah.
That's correct, okay. And I think that's gonna be an issue that's gonna be coming up
Okay.
on the March 2nd. So,
So I think there was some confusion there with the March 2nd thing. The due-backs from you guys that you're gonna furnish is that listing of equipment,
Yep.
what was sold, where it went, how much money, where'd the money go, that sort of thing. All right.
yeah, this is a different issue, but it
And
concerns
please understand,
the
I'll go to the city and try to get all the information, but as far as, once we do that reimbursement check, we never see the accounting, the checks or the deposits after that, you know what I mean? We don't see that, the city does all that.
Exactly. Concerning this,
Now, I'm good.
concerning this specific item on the agenda, Lobarco, as he stated at our last meeting during Citizens to Be Heard, stated, and it has been the practice that when we have an agenda item, that if it pertains specifically to this agenda item, that we may listen to citizens to be heard on that one item, no other item. So at this time, is there any citizens who would like to address the audit findings or the conflict of interest?
Oh, my gosh.
Okay, please address.
I'd just like to say that I think that Logan County and the city of Guthrie and the citizens of Logan County are very fortunate to have these members of the EMS District Number 1 to serve on a volunteer basis and to spend the time that clearly they spend on the business of this EMS service. And I appreciate them, and I think that people need to know, they know what they're doing. Thank you.
Okay,
And my name is Kay Wade. I'm with Logan County Economic Development.
you're the director.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. So,
I'm done.
we're done?
I just wanted to get it clarified.
Yes,
I did
I
too.
appreciate you three gentlemen showing up and calling your special meetings so we can clarify that. And if anything comes up, please, I've told three EMS related, anything comes up, you got a question, issue, call me. Maybe I can get some of that stuff rectified before we have to call special meetings or anything else. And maybe there are some issues that we need to call joint meetings just like this to discuss.
Actually,
I,
I,
for one, appreciate your service, each and every one of you.
Thank
we do need more citizens to serve on our boards, and that's a good thing, and I do appreciate your service as well, even though I ask some hard questions. I do appreciate your service. And so with that, Commissioner, I move, we go to
Item number 4, consider possible action on adjournment. So you make the motion there, Commissioner?
I just did, yes, sir.
You got a second?
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn, motion.
I'll second.
Second.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.